Good evening. My name is Luis Perez-Peria. I'm the chair of the Historic Districts Commission in Concord. Welcome to the April 7th, 2022 meeting of the Town of Concord Historic Districts Commission. The commission will review one continuance and 3 new applications this evening. At the end, we will also conduct some additional business. We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Our host will mute microphones of those not speaking, and in order to preserve bandwidth, may need to turn off video with the exception of the commissioners, the host, and the current applicant. I will call on each commissioner for comments on an application and then open the meeting for public comment. Once there are no more public comments, I will ask for a motion from the commission to continue to approve with conditions, or to reject. A second, and conduct a roll call vote. Once the commission has acted on an application, the applicant is free to leave the meeting. I'm going to do a roll call now of the members of the commission. Abby?
Present.
Henry?
Here.
Peter?
Here.
Paul?
Present.
Dennis?
Here.
And I'm here. So we will proceed to the first application, the first continuance, which is 59 Walden Street. I want to say that we had a very good site visit this morning. And I want to appreciate the effort that the applicant made to present all the information, which was very good. So if you want to go ahead and do
Luis, can I just a quick matter of who are the voting members tonight?
Oh, the voting members will be Henry, Abigail, Peter, Paul, and myself.
Okay, thank you. Dennis is just for his pretty face.
No, it's for his wisdom and his and his knowledge. So, if the applicant were to make a quick presentation of what was done since the last application, and what are the relevant issues as he sees them. Is the applicant here?
Yes, sorry.
You want to go ahead and tell us very quickly what has changed since the last time we saw it, and maybe give a very quick and brief review of the project.
Yeah, so thanks for having us again, and thanks for the 4 members that came this morning. I did think we had a good walk around, and hopefully we're able to explain the project on the site clearly to you all. And I think Rich Harrington, our civil engineer who was there, explained a lot of what was going to happen with the site. I think our major change and update is we looked at the front elevation of the building. Mike, why don't you share that? At our last meeting, the suggestion was made to look at the front elevation, and specifically the front door. So hopefully you guys can see this on the screen now. The upper elevation was what we presented last time. And if you look at the front door, that's the way the front door looks on the building today. And there's a single door and a single side light. And the suggestion was made, why don't we center the door within that entry alcove? And we took that suggestion, and in the bottom elevation, we did that, and then just shifted the windows around above it to get it better centered. So the windows centered above the door, and just kind of made everything within that front projected piece symmetrical. So that was the big architectural update we made.
And the pipe.
Oh, and yeah, we talked about, Abby asked at the meeting today, you know, where are the vent pipes going to be? Because vent pipes always eventually show up. So luckily, all of our restrooms are stacked on one side of the building, and we think we can gather them all together in one spot. So Mike, why don't you just kind of point at it? We're hoping to vent all the restrooms through one vent stack, sort of on the side that faces the back parking lot.
Okay. Can you make any comments on the treatment of the parking lot? What is being done in the periphery and in the edges, and maybe comment a little bit about the lighting that is being proposed. The lighting.
Yeah. Deb Howe, landscape architect. We were proposing to put 4 pole lights in the parking lot, and we'll be able to show you an image of those lights. I do have a question for the commission, and that is, you see the pole light locations there.
Yeah.
So marked in red, where Mike is pointing out with the cursor, those are the proposed locations of the pole lights, and anticipating a 12-foot pole and then an acorn fixture. And we have, I think I explained this morning, we have 3 options for fixtures, one in which the ballast is, it's a flat fixture in the top of the light. And that's not, yeah, that's not a good image. That's not the fixture itself, but you can see how the fixture itself, the ballast is in the top of the light, and then and the cap of the light itself creates the cutoff. So this is the fixture. These are the 3 options for fixtures. It's called, oh gosh, no, I can't remember the name of it.
Sternberg Euro Medium.
Sternberg Euro Medium. Thank you. And so it's sort of a contemporary version of an acorn. And the thing is, we can get a diffuse light in it. The fixture, the light on the left has that flat disc in the cap. The light in the middle has a domed fixture. As he zooms in, you can see that there's a slight catenary curve in that dome. And then the fixture on the right has a globe in it. And when I spoke to so these are all dark skies compliant. When I spoke to the lighting rep about this, he pointed out that the lamp with the globe in it tends to become, when it's turned on at night, it tends to become a focal point and a marker. So you see this point of light in the parking lot, and we're aware that the neighbors don't really want to see a light source. They're going to be seeing light itself in the parking lot, at least on a timer or on motion sensors, but it may draw a lot of attention to itself if we put the globes in. So my question for you all was, what is your stance? Are you interested more in what the fixture looks like during the day, or in how it looks at night and what the quality of the light is? It was something I wanted to give you these 3 options because it seems like a critical question for something that you'll see looking down the sides of the entryways.
Well, I think it would be difficult to have a formal position of which light we would prefer, because this would be a matter of aesthetics instead of historical relevance. So I think that you have articulated very well what are the issues. And I think that you probably can come with a design where you take the concerns of the neighbors in consideration, as you have done already. So you probably can propose which one would be a preferable one. But certainly we don't want to get into matters of recommending one or another, because that's not really our purview.
No, I wasn't assuming that, but I am curious if what you are interested in is more the quality of light at night, or the historicity of the fixture itself during the day.
Well, we're interested in the historicity of the fixture, especially how it invokes the historic references that the place has. And we're also interested in practical matters, such as the brightness of the light and so forth. So we usually have guidelines on the number of lumens or the wattage that these lights can have. So in this setting, it would be both from a historicity standpoint and also from the amount of brightness that it's being proposed. And we, of course, tend to have much lesser brightness, and we certainly will not agree on something that is not dark sky compliant, but that has already been fixed.
Yeah. We're trying to thread the needle with the NRC as well because of the stream at the bottom of the site. They're looking for wildlife friendly amber light. And so, so we're trying to make a mesh between what the HDC guidelines are, what the NRC guidelines are, and what the planning board might want. So I suppose it's still an open question in progress.
That's the reason God created architects and landscape architects and planners.
I guess the question is the style acceptable?
You know, can you hear me? I cannot say anything about the style. You see, you know, it would be a personal matter. You see, I think that I would wait for the other members of the commission to weigh in. The most important thing would be what style would be the one that you would like to have, because again, what I see here is that you understand very well what are the concerns of the neighbors and what are the potential concerns of the NRC. And I think that having that information, you probably can come up with a proposal, which is what we would be able to consider.
Luis, may I interject? Could I suggest we just go through the rest of the presentation and then
that's what I was going to say. You see that
yeah, I think it feels like we're getting a little hung up on
exactly. Exactly.
Thank you.
So we were talking about the treatment of the parking lot and some of the issues with the vegetation and the trees and so forth.
Yeah, so if the plan comes up, we all saw the big red maple in the east corner of the parking lot. That's just starting to bloom, and saw the decay that 1 liter has, and we think that it's going to unfortunately have to come out because there's going to be a safety issue. There is a safety issue with that tree, because as soon as we take the dead leader, dying leader out, it's going to be unbalanced towards the parking lot. And then in the east corner of the northeast corner of the building, just opposite the gas meter, I think you can see the cursor there, we propose to put in a columnar oak just to create a little bit of screening. We can't put fence around the gas meter, it's too close to the driveway, but we can put a tree there. And so I'm proposing a columnar oak, and then there's a fence around the utility area and a gate into that utility area from behind the oak. So that's a change from our last presentation to you. We moved the gate from closer to the entrance of the building, closer to the gas meter. And then in the front of the building, we pan up. There had been question about what we were doing at the ramp, and would the ramp be exposed as it appeared in the 3D renderings. And no, we have always intended to replace the hedge that's there. It's going to have to go away for a construction period, but we're going to replace it with another hedge with a level top, so that we will be able to conceal with a level horizon the ramp handrail, and similarly in the between the ramp and the building, take out the existing hedge and replace it with another similar hedge once construction is done.
Okay. So shall we go around the members of the commission? I'm going to go around in my screen. Abigail?
Hi, so thank you for hosting us for the site visit this morning. It was very helpful, very instructive to see the building in person. So I think I'll kind of start with my kind of global impressions. I have, specific questions certainly about the lighting plan and the landscape plan. But overall, so I want to start by saying, I think generally the materials chosen are largely in keeping with our guidelines and would be, in my estimation, appropriate. I think the overall kind of tone and tenor of the building is appropriate for the streetscape. My primary concern is that the existing structure is what I would describe as kind of a nondescript, not particularly attractive, modest brick bank structure that neither particularly adds or detracts from the historic streetscape. It's sort of innocuous. I think the materials selected for the new design similarly don't, they don't detract from the streetscape. They don't stand out in a negative way. My concern is that this is quite a large building. It is a substantial lot. You do have the parking in the rear, but the change in the ridge height, the change to the top plate, the overall increase in volume and structure is a concern for me. It goes from what was a very modest, in my estimation, building to what for downtown Concord will be a very substantial structure. And my concern with that in particular is that when looking at the building from the south elevation, so imagine you're on the Congregational Church side of the street looking at the building, the massing is largely shifted to the right side. That's where it feels heavier and particularly larger. Now, normally that wouldn't be an issue, but with this particular configuration of the streetscape, that's shifted to the side of the lot where you have a narrower driveway, you have a closer proximity to a neighbor, you have a proximity to a residential neighbor, and a building that is quite diminutive in size and is historic and has quite a different look. As opposed to the left side of the lot and the elevations where you have a larger driveway that abuts an open space that then abuts a larger commercial structure. So in my mind, what I would like to see is an iteration of the design that shifts some of that massing and structure towards the other side of the building to give a little bit more breathing room to that historic structure on the right, because it feels quite tight and crowded with that increase in the top plate and the ridge height to that historic structure, as opposed to the other side of the lot where you have, a tremendous amount of open space that I think could carry more volume and more weight with less of an impact to the streetscape and the historic structure that abuts this property. So that's kind of my primary concern, is that I feel like there's an opportunity here to have a larger building, to have a building with more mass and more volume, but that wouldn't impact as much the abutting historical structures and the streetscape. So that's an iteration that I would like to see, because in its current design, while I don't object to the design overall, I think the materials are appropriate. It does feel as though the new larger structure crowds that historical structure. That's my overall concern with the plan. I have specific concerns about lighting. What we discussed, it's always a balancing act between the look of a fixture and the function of a fixture. I would ask that, I think it would be helpful if the vendor for those particular light poles that that you currently have, if there's photographs of them at night, if they have photographs of them in current situations and applications in real life, it's always very helpful for us to see them actually illuminated. Because many times we get discussing a fixture and you think, God, it's going to spill a ton of light everywhere. And then you see it in real life, in photographs, and it actually doesn't. So sometimes those can be really helpful for us to understand what the actual throw of light from one of these fixtures would be. Because in my mind, between the three fixtures with the flat and the curved and the glass, it's more, the aesthetic difference between those three is not significant enough for me to make a determination without seeing the change in the throw of light. I don't have an objection to those fixtures. As a matter of course, I'd want to see what the light looks like from them. So it'd be helpful if they have actual in-use photographs. That's helpful for almost all light fixtures for us, if it's not something that we're readily familiar with. I think the landscaping changes, we looked at the tree today. It's a sad loss, but I understand why that needs to occur. I think the landscaping changes are really kind of minimal. They don't concern me in particular, and they don't necessarily enthuse me either, but I think they're perfectly acceptable. But that's my overall impression, is that I have concerns about the volume and massing and how it's shifted towards that one side. So that's my kind of feedback for now. I'm sure other commission members have different areas of concern, but that's my primary concern, and I think is one that's fairly significant at this point.
Thank you, Abby.
Abby, or should I answer at the end?
No, why don't you wait until all the commissioners have made comments, and then we can consider all their observations. Henry.
Thank you, Luis. And I also was pleased to have a chance to meet with the proponents of this scheme on site. A difficulty I have with the site plan is that typically we show adjacent structures, we would indicate their location. And that would help with the conversation that Abby was just developing, having to do with the higher massing at the rear and how that might relate to the 18th century house that's next door. I'm a little less concerned with that massing than she is. I think that the change from the existing rather clumsy set of materials, yes, that's very helpful, but it isn't in plan. So it's kind of hard to see how one relates to the next. My guess is that if you had the plan, it would help the proponents' argument that the higher mass in the rear will have less effect than we fear on the house next door. I think that the change from brick and exposed concrete that's not handled in a particularly architectural way, but to clapboard is going to fit quite well, frankly, with its neighbors, more than the existing structure does, which, as I may have mentioned last time, seems to relate somehow more to the post office than to any of its neighbors. So I think that there have been a number of fairly careful decisions having to do with the surface of the building. I also have continued to be impressed with the observant and somewhat, I would say, even sensitive interpretation of the existing soft landscape and changes that are proposed to the soft landscape. What I'm sure the people who were with me this morning know I'm concerned about is that the hard landscape at a historic street in a historic district remains relatively unconsidered. It's just asphalt, both sides of the building. And there's an entrance and a ramp return and a number of signals that have to do with access.
go in
to
the
the
bathroom.
building
I'm gonna
that
leave.
suggests that the hard landscape to the right, next to 69, might be treated differently than just straightforward asphalt. I'm not convinced that that can't be handled more sensitively. And then from the point of view of people on the sidewalk and historic district, there's some little more texture and elegance in there, particularly since there are, in a way, two entrances, although you only are stepping up to one of them. I will ask only one further question, and it's so detailed, it's a yes or no question. It has to do with the very high level wall mounted lights. Are those still in this scheme, or were they taken out from the previous presentation?
They're still in the scheme right now, Henry, but we're talking about, and we're just looking at today, some lower, actually bollard lights, potentially along the driveway, specifically, maybe on both sides, but specifically on the residential neighbor side, on the 69 side.
I did hear that conversation. Thank you. What I wasn't certain about is whether the wall mounted lights, and if the bollard lights don't work out, maybe the wall mounted lights could be made, they could be lowered. All you're really trying to get there is a half-foot candle in general. Thank you. I'll stop here, Luis.
Thank you very much, Henry. Peter.
Thank you, Luis. I apologize, I wasn't at the site meeting this morning. My only excuse is that I'm a member of First Parish and have parked in that parking lot for years during church services and played with our kids in the playground. So I'm quite familiar with the site. So it's interesting that Abby led off with some of the same feelings I have, which is that there's something about, I feel like the design is kind of moving in a good direction, but it talks to the Scout House, which is set way back, and a couple of the other larger structures further down Walden Street, as the business district sort of, it doesn't exactly stop here. It's sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it technically stops with this building, but then it picks up again with the police and fire station down the street. I think I don't want to repeat the similar concerns. I think overall it's a sort of heroic effort to rehabilitate what can only be described as a bit of an odd little structure there. I think, Henry, your observation that it's a little bit too much like the post office is about right, although that is kind of the quirky charm of this whole area, that there are these kind of odd architectural juxtapositions. I don't really have any specific critiques other than what you've heard already. I think it would be interesting to know if this, like many buildings we come before us, seems to have an attic that isn't exactly useful. I'm not even sure if the attic spaces are in use, but it's almost like the hat is a little too high and wants to just come down a little bit, and maybe the second level turns into dormers or a different articulation of the second floor. That can be disguised in any number of ways, but some way to start to make the mass feel a little bit less intimidating compared to what's there. I don't think there's anything particularly objectionable about the design, other than, I think, as Abby has pointed out very well, the juxtaposition on that side and how it would be nice to, I mean, the elevation you had up earlier actually just sort of showed that issue with the gap between the Concord players versus the neighbor. So that's really all I'd have to say for now, but thank you again for the presentation, and I apologize again for not being there this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Paul?
I really don't think I can add anything substantive to what my colleagues have suggested, particularly Henry's comments, but Abby and others. So I don't want to take up more time without substance.
Thank you, Paul. Dennis, you're muted.
Unmuted. First of all, I want to thank you for changing the door. Looks much better. I think it's a much better approach. Two things. I understand where Abby is coming from, but what made me feel better about this is the shot you showed earlier with the ridge lines. And it's sort of a step down. So you have the performing arts space next door, you step down to this building, and then you step down to the house next door. So there really is not, they're fairly well aligned. I don't think the ridge line is that much higher. I think Peter's suggestion that maybe you could look at moving it down, but then it gets kind of squat looking, and I think might be a little odd. I don't know anything about the headroom on the second floor. The other thing is looking at the floor plan. If you're to move the mast, well, first of all, if you're to move the mast to the other side, and all they're doing here is moving it up based on the foundation that's there. If you move to the other side, then the mast would be in the driveway. I don't know how that could quite be done. And I don't think it would make a huge amount of difference. So I don't have any problem with the masting of it. I agree with Abby. I'd like to know more about the lights, but we'll get to that at some point. But overall, I think this is going in the right direction, and I think it's fine, and I think it'll fit in well in this neighborhood.
Thank you, Dennis. I will make comments as brief as possible, and I will echo what Abby has said and what Henry has mentioned as well. I don't think that those are insurmountable problems, especially the issue of the massing, because as long as we provide with a texture that brings the house to a more historically aware perspective, then that should not be, I don't see that as a problem. On the other hand, I do have a substantial problem, which is the parking lot. See, my perception of this parking lot is that this parking lot is a massive intrusion in the whole natural landscape and the historical landscape that exists there. You are directly adjacent to the Millbrook, which is one of the most historical places in Concord. And this parking lot simply performs as an utilitarian intervention. It's vast amounts of asphalt. It doesn't have any natural features that can soften that appearance that it has. And in my personal view, and in that view, I introduce the fact that we should all be stewards of an attitude towards conservation and saving energy. We are promoting the automobile as the most important thing of this particular structure. And I don't think that we need 21 or 23. I have counted them a couple of times, and I think that there are at least 21 spaces. I don't believe that we need 21 spaces of parking lot there. And I believe that having 21 spaces of parking lot is both historically and environmentally inappropriate. So I feel very strongly about this, to the point that I am not able to consider the rest of the building if I don't see personally a substantial change in the parking lot. And that would be the introduction of natural components such as trees and shrubs, etc., in the center of the parking lot, and the emphasis of this vast space where to put cars. To me, it's a really troubling point, and to me, it's a point of no return, to say so. And I just want to say it outright because. Again, I feel very strongly about these. Well, I would like to open the discussion to members of the public. If anybody wants to raise their hand or call our attention. Paul, you want to say something else?
Yeah, Luis, I just wanted to ask one question, and that is, the proponents, can you speak to Luis's point about the parking or the volume of parking before we go to public comment? What are the reasons, both the volume and perhaps the configuration?
Well, we do want to make sure that there is parking for our staff and our agents who are going to that building on a regular basis. And honestly, the reason that we purchased that building was because of the ability to have our own parking. We would not have purchased the building if we didn't have that ability. And we made sure that all of the orders of conditions and all of the boxes were checked to make sure that that parking could stay there before we purchased it. That was part of our due diligence.
Okay.
And we also have a zoning requirement for a certain number of parking places per square foot. So we can't remove parking. I'm happy to talk about how we can soften it, but we can't remove.
Yeah, I think those are important points, and thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Well, I'm surprised we have no comments.
John Van Sicklin has his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry,
John?
there's probably 2 pages worth of people on the call here. Thank you for a couple minutes here. So we are the abutting neighbors, just to remind everybody, on 69 Walden Street. So this is an important consideration for us. So I appreciate all the diligence of the commission, you know, and I saw you all out there this morning. So I appreciate that. A couple things that, you know, I remember from the last call a couple of weeks ago that, you know, I was surprised with sort of the limited consideration from the 59 Walden Street, you know, folks. One of them, you know, most important being, you know, if the massing on the right side is required, that there was no consideration for, you know, foliage or trees, you know, down that, you know, what is currently asphalt. Luis, to your point a little bit. And that putting a tree in the very back by the river and making the tree look bigger, you know, in the front of the building, you know, doesn't really sort of break the commercial from the residential. And you can see quite a difference on the other side of the building, as was pointed out by Abby, you know, between the playhouse and, you know, this structure. It's a greenway and a row of trees, as opposed to just a strip of asphalt. So, you know, that is one that, you know, I hope the commission, you know, leans into a little bit. The second one was the lighting, that still lighting on the side of the building. And you may have noticed the lighting was probably still on this morning. That's currently there. That's 24 hours a day, you know, quite bright, well above the lumens, you know, that have been discussed here. And I noticed the question from Henry, are those lights still high on the building in the back and the side? And they still are. No consideration to remove them, despite adding more lighting, you know, in the parking lot. So the combination, you know, of sort of bright lights, you know, especially on the side facing 69 Walden Street, you know, as well as no buffer, you know, are two things that, that from, our perspective as neighbors, we'd appreciate the consideration of. But I do appreciate the diligence as the commission goes through here. I'm very impressed. I've never been through sort of meetings like this. So I want to thank you for that. And also thank you for the 59 Walden Street folks for consideration, of your new neighbors. Thank you very much.
Hey, John, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Is the lighting on at night there?
Yes, all night.
Oh, we'll figure out how to turn it off. I didn't know it was on.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Louise?
Yes, go ahead, Dennis.
I just wanted to answer his question. Well, I'm not sure everybody is, but I know a number of us we're in sympathy with your need for a buffer on that side. We are in favor of removing one of the driveways, but we got a message this afternoon from town planning that they will remain and that there's not enough space on the other side for two drives to go by. Although I was interested and we measured it this morning, I think we came up with 19 inches. And Elizabeth Hughes says we need 18 to have two lanes there. So maybe that question isn't quite closed.
18 feet. 18 feet.
But I think that the town has made it very clear that that driveway has to remain. I would, not speaking for the whole commission, but I think speaking for some of us, I think if we had our druthers, we would put plantings there on that side rather than a drive.
No, I appreciate that. And just a quick comment. Because I know that there's a rear entry, now as well as sort of the front entry. There's also parking across the street. Does the walkway need to be there? Is that a requirement down that side of the building toward the Playhouse?
Oh, that's not ours. We don't own that.
He's referring to
You don't own the sidewalk?
The concrete side.
No, he's referring to the sidewalk that connects the front of the building with the parking lot.
Correct.
It's on the left-hand side of the building adjacent to the theater.
Has to be there.
Why?
And the reason?
That concrete sidewalk is access between the handicap parking space in the back of the building, which is the only place it can be accommodated on site, and the handicap ramp at the front entry.
So there's no rear entry that's accessible for handicaps. Okay.
But if I may interject, because that was also an issue noted this morning. If you were to make the driveway on the right-hand side of the building, which is the opposite of the one we're referring to, a pedestrian access, and make that driveway a two-way driveway, you could remove that strip, that sidewalk that connects the front with the back, and put it on the other side, and you will be ADA compliant. So that doesn't have to be there forever.
Clever.
There's just not enough room to do that.
Well, according to the regulations, you need 18 feet and you have 19.
That's taking it right up against the building.
And to the property line.
And to the property line.
Well,
How many cars you think are going to hit the building, guys?
Well, are there, does anyone want to add any comments, or are there any other public comments?
We'd also be bringing the handicapped into a side door, which is frowned upon. You're supposed to bring them in through the front door.
Well, not really, because what you're doing is doing the same thing that you're doing right now, because instead of the handicapped person appearing through the left side of the building, is going to appear through the right side of the building, which actually is closer to the ramp that gives access to the ramp that goes to
exactly.
So what's the issue?
I don't know what you just said. I'm sorry.
they're saying that I'll try to frame the question a little clearer. There's a handicap parking spot in the back of the building, but there's no access. There's no handicap access to the back of the building from that handicap parking spot. So you are forced to construct some pathway to get the handicapped person from the back to the front of the building. That pathway is currently on the left side of the building as you look at the building from the street. And that's the sidewalk that it's being referred to, that it cannot be moved. And what we're arguing is that that can be moved because you have enough space if you remove it to put a two-way driveway. Then you say, well, if I remove that sidewalk, where does it go? And we're saying that it could go to the right-hand side of the building, which would create an advantage because the handicapped person would have closer access to the front of the building from a ramp that transfers between the right side of the building and the neighbor and goes to the front. And if you remember the design, there's a little S-shaped ramp that brings you into the main ramp that actually takes you to the main entrance. And that distance would be shorter if you have a handicap sidewalk that goes from the right side of the building to the front instead of from the left side of the building to the front.
So you're saying remove the sidewalk on the left-hand side, and that would make the driveway large enough for two-way traffic?
That is correct. That is correct. According to the rules, and I read the letter from the town planner, from the engineer, you need 18 feet. And if you remove that, according to the measurements were made this morning, you have 19 feet. So you have a foot to spare.
You know, the fire department has already looked at that, and their comment was, you got to keep both driveways.
Well, that's the type of thing that we probably should ask the question again and provide the information that there's the potential to removing that sidewalk, because there's no question that with the sidewalk, it's certainly not compliant. But if you remove the sidewalk, then it is possible to have a two-way access there.
Because you don't have the turning radius.
Yeah, we can't do that. We'll lose parking and then we won't be able to do this. So,
well, you know,
if we lose the parking lot the driveway on the right-hand side of the building, we won't have enough parking and turning space to do this building. So we would be forced to keep the building pretty much as it is and probably rent it because it will not be large enough as it is for our use.
I understand that those are considerations, you see, but from our standpoint, what we're trying to do is to preserve a historic reference, and that building happens to sit in a very historically relevant site. So we are trying to accommodate as many concerns that you may have. But unfortunately, you know, the number of parking spaces that you must have from a financial or strategic standpoint, it cannot be our concern. You see, my answer would be, my pragmatic answer would be, well, decrease the number of parking spaces, make enough space for a turnaround, and invite people to park behind the post office or to park in the street, or to, I don't want to sound too liberal, but it's to use alternative ways of transportation different from a car. But that's the way we're looking into the future. So I think that it's important that we keep that in mind as well, and that we all collectively, we understanding the concerns that you have and the obligations that you have, that work towards that important goal.
I guess I'm not understanding why two driveways that have been there since the building was constructed are now an issue. They've always been okay in the past, and now they're an issue. So that's concerning me. And then as I had said, and I'll say again, the reason that we purchased that building was due to that parking. And we made sure during our due diligence period that parking would be able to stay. So it's quite disappointing to hear that it is something that the commission has an issue with.
Well, we cannot answer anything but the first question, because the second question is not anything that we have a preview on. But the first question has a very important reason to be formulated. And that is that you are changing the building. So you are not keeping the same building that you bought. In other words, the building that you bought, you can keep exactly as it is, and you can have as many parking spaces as they are, and you can have two driveways in each side and so forth. That's number one. But you are introducing a number of substantial changes to the building that we actually celebrate, because we believe that it will be an important contribution to the historical references of Concord, and you have done it very well and very competently. But we have some issues with the size of the building and the massing of the building and the effect that it will have in the neighborhood. And the neighbors have expressed their concerns on that subject. And we have expressed individually as members of the commission our concern. So the building that you are proposing is not the same thing that allows you to keep some parts of the status quo, but then change others. So if you're going to change the size of the building to something that satisfies the needs that you have and for which you purchased the building in the first place, then you have to accommodate the impact that those changes have. And the impact is that you're going to have a larger building and that we want to soften the boundary between one building and the other. So we're proposing that you remove one of the driveways, make it a pedestrian space that will be very inviting and very humane from that perspective, and that you accommodate the parking needs that you may have, making some substantial compromises, such as decreasing the number of parking spaces and making the parking space less, maybe a little more difficult to navigate. And of course, we're not asking you to change or to go violate any codes, but that's the reason that we have that question. See, it's not a trivial concern, and it's not anything that is just coming out of the left field. It's a legitimate concern that you have based on the changes that you have made. You are not keeping the same structure, you are changing it.
So, sorry, Paul has his hand up. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, no, so I think so, nor are we saying as a matter of fiat that you have to remove both or one of the driveways. I think what's being asked here is that you rethink the overall plan, that you take these comments into consideration and see whether that's a possibility and see whether size adjustments are a possibility and so forth. I don't think you're being told by the chairman that you must eliminate a driveway, but maybe that's going to be a condition depending upon the overall design. So I think, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think the issue here is the extent to which you can take it from here and rethink the design overall and some of the comments that have been made and propose modifications that may ameliorate a number of these concerns. I'm not sure I'm right, but that's my take on what the chair is saying.
Thanks for your comments, and I want to express that I'm not saying that that's the way it has to be done. I'm just saying what are the issues that are being considered over here, and certainly you can put two driveways anywhere. I think that there's another comment. Well, I don't see any other comments. So I think that there are a number of issues that have been brought up. Those issues are related to the size of the new structure, the lighting, the parking lot, the relationship with the neighbors, the driveway, the walkaway. So I want to ask the applicant whether they would want to consider all these discussions that have been made and then reevaluate the project and come back, or whether they want to bring this for a vote. And if we bring it to a vote, will be with the plans that have been presented today.
Raise the hand. I got the glass.
All right.
So there's There's a,
I'm sorry, we couldn't unmute. Could I just make a comment, please? I'm Nina
yes,
Rose,
please.
97 Bartlett Hill Road.
I'm
And I
happy to.
discovered that parking lot one day purely by accident, and I think it's a hidden gem. And the other comment is, I think besides fire, you should consider snow clearance. You might want to have two entrances or an entrance and exit for winter if we had a lot of snow. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
Luis, could I just kind of go down some of the, give some responses to some of these comments?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. I just kind of go through them in order. Abby brought up the massing issue. And I guess I want to point out one thing. When we were first starting this whole project, we met with the town planner and we met with Ray, the building inspector, and we were given a study by the town that had shown a study that the town did where there was going to be a significantly taller building that had a different use. It was going to be housing of some sort. And when we came along, we thought we were going to be able to use those same heights. It was a study that was approved by the town. And then it turns out they changed their mind and would not like to go that high. So we worked with Ray and went with the zoning, which was the 27-foot high from mean grade to the middle of the roof. And so we worked with that. And if you go into the existing bank building now, there's something like an 11-foot high ceiling in the main banking hall. We're not just leaving that alone and adding another story on top. We're chopping that first story, that upper story today, down to about 8 feet, 8.5 feet. So we're taking off, we're lowering the windows, we're lowering the ceiling, and we're making a very short upper story as well. So that's how we were able to meet the current zoning requirements of 27.5 feet. So I feel like, that should be recognized that we've done everything we can to meet the client's needs of what their program is. And to Abby's comment about the shifting of the massing, I don't disagree. That would be nice to be able to do. But I do want to remind the committee that we are not changing the footprint of this at all. We're just going up to the amount that is allowed by your zoning regulations. And I think Dennis made a good point that if we could shift it over to the left-hand side towards the Performing Arts Center, we could, but that's not our property over there. That's our driveway. So we're keeping the same footprint, and that's how we're doing it. We're trying to accommodate the Van Sicklins by being careful with windows, lighting, and we're certainly happy to continue that detailed level of conversation with you guys and with them, so we can accommodate things. So Henry's comments about the site plan showing the neighbors, I think, yes, we could certainly add to our site plan the outlines of the adjacent buildings so you can see it in plan view. We can certainly use Google Earth and all those techniques. I think he had also mentioned maybe the asphalt could be a different surface, maybe a more historic one. I think that's what Henry was saying. If he wasn't, forgive me, but maybe it's a cobblestone or a brick. I just wouldn't want that to be louder for somebody to drive over and a rumbly type of noise, which would probably not make the Van Sicklins very happy either. The wall mounted lights, we can certainly work with that, lower those. Peter had commented on the attic space, and yeah, so we kept the pitch the same as it is today. The attic space will be used for HVAC equipment, certainly all the air handlers and everything. So, we decided to keep the pitched roof so we could hide all that stuff versus having a flat roof and just sort of doing roof mounted HVAC units. And I think quickly we've talked about the parking lot, and Chris said very clearly why they purchased the property. So, and so Mr. Van Sicklin's concerns along his side, I think we can certainly do everything we can to add greenery, add shrubbery, work with them on, some other architectural features or landscape features that, would soften the thing. And I think the ADA thing, I hear what you guys are saying. The ramp's been there for a long time, and I don't know, I think those are my responses to the items that everyone listed.
Well, thank you very much. I think that's been very clear. So would you consider taking all those observations into account and perhaps revising the project so all those issues have been entertained, and then we can continue the application and review those plans when they become available?
Yes, we would be happy to do that. And we certainly want a win-win for everyone here. We want to be in that building for a very long period of time and want to have a good relationship with everyone around us. So certainly we are wanting to look at those considerations and do what we can. So thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks to you. You are extremely helpful applicant. So I will ask a vote from the commission to continue the application of 59 Walden Street.
Yeah. I move that we continue the application of 59 Walden Street as stated to the next meeting of the commission, unless the applicant feels they need more time than a couple of weeks.
So the next meeting is April 21st, or the following meeting is May 5th.
I would say, what's the applicant's preference in that regard?
Give us a minute here.
Cinco de Mayo.
Margaritas.
I can do either.
Is that enough time for us?
All right, well, I will move to continue the matter with respect to 59 Walden Street to May 5.
I'll second your motion, Paul.
Okay, Abigail?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to revised plans and things. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now we are going to consider 3 new applications. The first one is North River Village, 383 Lowell Road, the Barrett Farm Historic District. Is the applicant here?
Yep, I'm right here. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the folks at 383 Lowell Road, Confreeze, reached out to us and asked that we remodel a couple of bathrooms for them. As part of that, we propose that we add a skylight to the new shower. It's a totally kind of landlocked shower. There's no other window or natural light source in there, and we really think it would make a big difference to the project.
Okay. Can you tell us roughly where the skylight is going to go?
Sure.
As we pass through the
Yep.
photographs?
Yep. If you stop right there, yeah, it's going to be right behind the second door, or the second dormer, in between the second and third dormer. So right where your pointer is now. It's going to be probably 2/3 will be covered by that dormer, so you only see the bottom third of the skylight from the perspective that we're looking at it now.
And actually, that view is it's perpendicular almost perpendicular to the street, right?
Yes, yes, it is. Yep.
Yeah, the access to the house is exactly. So it's even harder to see.
Yes, yeah, it's pretty well obscured, but definitely a portion of it will be visible from the public byway.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll ask comments from the commission. Abigail?
I have no objection.
Henry?
I think it's well placed. It looks fine.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay with me.
Dennis?
It looks a little weird, but I'm fine with it.
Paul?
I think it'll be a real addition to that bathroom, and I agree, no problem.
And I have no problems with it whatsoever. Any comments from the public, please? Well, if there are no comments from the public, and if the applicant doesn't want to add any more information, I will ask for a vote on 383 Lowell Road. A motion?
I'll move that. Oh, go ahead, Paul, you go.
Okay, you do the next one. I move that we approve the application as submitted with respect to the property at 383 Lowell Road.
Second.
Okay, Abigail?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well, so congratulations.
All right, thank you so much, guys. I wish
You
they
have
were
this-
all that easy.
You have the second
Yeah.
fastest approval in history.
And no discussion about showering with a skylight above you. I thought that was going to generate a whole lot of discussion.
Well, we lost the chance. Okay, the next application is 52 Main Street to remove, replace, and install new lighting. You can hear from the applicant.
Yes, hi, this is Julie Rieger from Gensler. Can you hear me? And I just turned my video on.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Fabulous. We are here representing Bank of America. Is it okay if I share my screen? Would that be the best way to do it? And I can walk
Certainly.
through the presentation. Okay.
Yes.
1 second. Share. All right. So we are the architects on behalf of Bank of America, and this existing branch at 52 Main Street has been certainly in this location for a very, very long time. As we can see, we just did a little map reminding all of us where this is located and adjacencies if we need to refer to it later. So this is a site plan that is about the work, but first I want to step back and give a little overview of why we are doing this. And so this is based on customer safety. So the bank wants to make sure that all customers that are coming here to the branch, both in the evenings or, as we know, in the wintertime, it can be dark very early during normal bank branch hours, as well as for 24/7 access to ATMs and the drive-up ATM. We want them to feel safe. So there are certain light levels that the bank has established that we are proposing different ways to achieve those light levels to provide customer safety. This is an unusual branch in that there's a lot of different access points to it. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, being this right in the center of Concord. So what this plan shows us is a couple of different things. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit to make it a little easier. So all of the little orange squares that you see are existing to remain light fixtures of some sort. The dark blue ones are new light fixtures. And I have subsequent pages that will talk about each of those different light fixtures because there are different styles of light fixtures that we are proposing to be added. And the turquoise ones are ones that are going to be, so like these turquoise ones are to be removed. And often those are actually remove and replace with a different light fixture. So that is the goal behind the project and why we are here today to share with you this presentation. So this is the site plan. This is a site plan that actually has foot candle level readings to actually help us determine exactly where all these light fixtures need to be. And next, what we have done is we have rendered views showing the new light fixtures and approximately what that light canopy and where that will be. Every single light fixture that is proposed is dark sky compliant. So absolutely every single one complies from that perspective. But what these rendered views show is where the lights are. And as I said, an approximate demonstration of the light spread. So this is our front view, and we have lights at both sort of this sort of middle level as well as a little bit higher up. We have different points with front entrance as well as the walk-up ATM, which is right here, and then the drive-up ATM in this particular view. And so we actually have each fixture that is talked about. We have cut sheets for them. I have a separate package that we certainly submitted with actual individual cut sheets. And so then on the back and sides, we have different fixtures. Some of them are this bronze color and some of them are white, depending on where they are located. So these are in the front. So some of these are in the back and the front. And so these are more, they stick off of the building a little bit more, all specified as bronze. They're wall mounted. This is a side fixture over here, again, bronze. So this is more, this is of course the rear of the building and a small area here. These are to be removed fixtures. Our drive-up area, we have some specific wall fixtures. They're here and here. Then this is the walk-up ATM. In the rear, a higher on the wall, sort of more overall illumination. This is for our accessible parking stall to go up to the ramp. Because in the rear, there's 24/7 ATM access as well. This is along the side. And then this is on the building at the top of the accessible ramp. There's one new light pole proposed, as you can see right here, to better illuminate the various components of the accessible ramp. And then we have two more wall-mounted fixtures on the rear. This is just an overall schedule of all the light fixtures that are proposed to be used on the particular project. And this is just our appendix. So what I will do is come back here to the site plan. And with this, I will open up to questions that we would love to be able to answer and hear your thoughts.
Thanks very much for the presentation. Abigail, our light expert.
I wouldn't call myself a light expert. This is like a massive increase in the amount of light at this site. I'm a little bit taken aback at the number of fixtures that you want to add. I mean, I understand some of the concerns, but the property has been in this condition for quite some time, and I wasn't aware of any safety concerns related to it. My proposal would be, I'd like to see a site visit in the evening. I'd like to look at the site as it currently stands, because this is, we have serious concerns about light spillage.
Okay.
And commercial lighting in the district. This is a very visible spot. This is a huge increase in the amount of light. And I just simply, I I would not feel comfortable at all approving it without a visit to the site when it's dark out, to get a sense of the current conditions, because to be frank, I don't, I mean, I use this bank, this is my bank. I've used this
Great.
bank in the evening, I've accessed it by foot, I've accessed it by car. I haven't had any of those concerns. Maybe I just haven't been looking closely and carefully, but I'd like to revisit the site at night. Because as I said, this is a massive increase in the number and location of fixtures. So that's my initial feedback.
Thank you, Abigail. Henry.
I have just a quick question. I can't see whether it's AH1 and if that's a luminaire type or an actual fixture. Good, thank you. There's 3 fixtures that I question the necessity and even the advisability. The 2 AH1s on the front of the building that wash over the windows.
Yes,
I understand
the high
from a
ones.
rendering. Yes, I understand from a rendering point of view why that is seductive. I'm not at all convinced, however, that it's necessary and wouldn't lead to overlight. And the AH1 that is around the corner, nope, further.
Or this one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, those are 3 fixtures that I can't really justify in terms of light that I wish were there today.
Okay.
I'm not very concerned about what you do in the back through all that convoluted ramp, so on and so forth. Like Abby, I've never fallen there, but that doesn't mean it isn't a dodgy area. So my question really is about the major alteration after dark to the primary facade.
Okay.
Good presentation, incidentally.
Thank you, Henry. Peter.
Thank you, Luis. I think I'll just follow on with Henry's comment there. This is actually, for all that's might be controversial, it's an excellent presentation of the lighting. So thank you for that. Henry stole my comment about the AH1s, and really mostly what I wanted to point out about that is, unlike, let's say, the churches in town, which do have some sort of look at me lighting focused on them, I'm not sure that's really, I don't know, called for, it might be the wrong word, but it's not something that has been done traditionally as part of this district. So, but I think also the suggestion of an evening site visit is quite appropriate. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Dennis.
I think most of what I would say has been said. I agree with all the comments that have been made. I think Abby's suggestion of a night visit. This is also my bank, and I don't remember having a problem, but maybe I just haven't noticed. The wall washes in front are obviously to highlight the bank. And even though it's an attractive building, I just don't think that's something we want to get into and set a precedent for that sort of thing in the historic district. So I would cut those out immediately. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Dennis. Paul.
Yeah, I concur with my colleagues, but I understood you to say that the turquoise fixtures are essentially going to be replaced by a comparable. Every turquoise spot we see is going to be another light substituted for it. Is that accurate, or are some being actually eliminated with no substitute lighting?
So you are correct. There are some, like, so this turquoise right here is being removed, and there's no like a one-to-one replacement for it. The other light fixtures are covering that area, but the one here and the one here are removed. New fixtures go in, and there may be a height differential on where the new one goes in. So
yes,
that
so
wasn't quite clear.
Okay, let me ask a sort of basic ignorant question. In terms of volume of lights, by how many light fixtures are we increasing what's currently at the bank?
Let's see. At least 6. There may be more than that.
Okay, and 2 of those are the ones that my colleagues have referenced over the front windows, and I
That is
share
correct, yes.
share their sense about that. The other additions, it looks like a couple of them are on the ramp, that sort of convoluted ramp corner, lower left.
Yes, this is the convoluted ramp to get us up a lot of distance.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, that answers my question.
Thank you, Paul. Sorry. Go ahead.
Luis, I have one other quick question. May I?
Please go ahead.
Julie, could you tell me the 2 fixtures out on the front steps, the YK1s, are those not being reused? It says out of scope in the schedule.
They are staying as is.
So they are, and they have light inside them.
Yeah, so they're like these guys.
Yes, yeah. Because those were,
they will stay.
I'm guessing those were the original, you know, are those original?
Closest to, yes.
Okay, so, okay, because those are actually kind of nice looking little pieces of the building structure and might do the duty of those big wall washers somehow. Anyway, thank you. That was my question.
Sure.
Thank you, Peter. Any public comments? All right, in the absence of public comments, I will ask Heather whether it is possible to organize an evening visit, an evening site visit.
The applicant has her hand raised.
Go ahead, please.
Well, so I actually wanted to ask a couple, or ask a couple questions, I guess would be the right way to do this. We understand there are a lot of lights proposed. We first and foremost, thank you for all of your questions. And the idea that this, there may be too much light. We are absolutely interested in working to right size and get to the most appropriate type of light here. So I actually have on the phone as well a representative from the bank, not directly from the bank, but their project management team, Bill Sharkey. And so if there is a more appropriate way to address this, if you want to go directly to like, look, this doesn't work, you know, we're certainly willing to entertain that. Or if the better way to move forward would be to, as suggested, do an evening site visit to then more appropriately address where lighting should be. We would be open to a number of different ways to reconcile this site to appropriate satisfaction of the HDC.
Thank you, Julie. Well, I think that it's very clear that there's a concern about the number of lights and probably the intensity of the lights.
We share that. Yes, we share your concern.
So I think that we're, in that sense, we're all on the same page. So the question would be whether it would be satisfactory for the commission. Then I will poll the commissioners whether we want to have an evening site visit or whether we want to consider another option in terms of the number and intensity of lights. I don't know if I can poll the commission, Henry or Peter. Go ahead.
Well, Luis, we've done evening site visits on Concord Market, for instance. They're very useful, even if it's just to look at this presentation material together. Yeah.
I think you can do both. I think we can schedule an evening site visit and, you know, ask the applicant to, you know, tone down the amount of lights that are proposed in a revision for the next meeting.
Okay, I think that would be appropriate if it's okay with the applicant. It would be an evening site visit.
We are ready. Yes, so we'll just mutually agreed date.
Okay. So I will ask for a motion to continue the application of 52 Main Street to remove, replace, and install new lighting.
So point of order, Luis, so when we do an evening site visit, Heather, have we typically done it the evening before? So it would be on the 20th?
If that works for everyone.
Okay. Does that work for everyone?
Does not work for me. Of course.
Of April?
Yeah, so if you wanted to continue,
Okay.
the way we typically do site visits is they're usually in the morning, and we usually do them at 8 a.m. the morning of the hearing. So we do it in the morning, and then we have the hearing in the evening. The hearing, the next hearing would be April 21st, but obviously we can't do a site visit that evening because we're meeting. So it'd have to be either the evening prior or another night. I think that week would make the most sense, but.
I can't do it on the 20th.
I don't know if everyone just wants to do an informal evening site visit on their own as well. Because, I don't know, if the applicant being there, you're just looking at existing conditions anyways. So you could always, everyone could just do an informal site visit on their own at their own time before the next meeting.
Certainly would be acceptable for me.
Luis?
Go ahead, Henry.
I've done a lot of building exterior lighting, and the significance, part of the significance of being there after dark with others is that it's almost impossible when you're designing these things to make the appropriate allowance for what street lights and adjacent building lightings are doing. And to that end, I think it would be ideal if it weren't just informal people walking by, but if the appropriate members of the Gensler team or their lighting consultant or whomever could be there also, even if there were only 3 or 4 of us. It's a very significant thing to do, though.
What about the 19th? Is that possible, Peter? I know you probably have dance class on the 20th, but on the 19th, could you do it?
Yes, 19th would be great. No dancing. I can't dance anymore.
No.
The 19th works for me as well.
I have no problem with the 19th.
Okay, we'll make that work.
Okay, so I will look for a motion to continue the application of 52 Main Street.
I will make that motion. We continue to the next meeting on April 21st, correct? And a site visit the evening of April 19th at, what's the right time? 7 o'clock?
Might be too early.
Is that too early? I actually don't know.
That was going to be one of my questions as well. Like, what's the right time to have it dark enough?
Abby, you probably have the greatest constraints there. What would be a time that would be convenient for you?
7:20 was sundown tonight.
Yeah, 7:32 is sunset on April 19th.
So do we meet at 7:45 or?
I think we meet at to 7:45. Does that give us enough darkness?
Hang on a second. Is that Patriots Day?
No, that's the day after Patriots Day.
Okay.
Yeah, Marathon Day is the 18th.
18th. Okay.
Yeah. So do we gather at 7:45?
Say 7:30. Gather, and it'll get darker between 7:30 and 8. How does that work? That's the longest motion we've ever made. How about we meet at 7:30 on the 19th?
7:30 on the 19th with
That's my
a
motion.
meeting on the 21st. That's your motion. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, Abigail?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So we'll have some cocktails on April 19th, I guess.
Ooh, sounds good.
Somebody will have.
Thank you all for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks for your presentation.
Yeah, well done.
Well, the next application is 45 Bartlett Hill Road, Jason Rowan Design in Northbridge Modern Square Historic District to reconstruct the existing dwelling to include a second story with front and rear additions, relocate driveway and garage entrance, install solar roof tiles, make changes to landscaping and hardscaping, and install lighting. And that's all. The applicant here.
Yes.
Hello, welcome. And if you want to take us through the application, what are you planning to do? And some of the plans.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Jason Roan, and I'm actually at 112 Bartlett Hill Road. I'm also the project designer, and I'm going to share my screen now. So before I launch into a project summary, I'm just going to quickly show the views, the photographs of the two public ways that are at either side of this property. The first is Reformatory Branch Trail, and you can see a piece of the house, just the roof line in the distance. And as you go up the trail, this is the view of the rear of the house. And then I have some photos of the rear of the house, which we're looking to change. And this is the north facing view. And then at the top of the hill on the other side is Bartlett Hill Road. And this house basically faces almost due south. One problem that the owners are having is that it's a very dark interior. The existing house has rooms that are small and narrow and very difficult to furnish. So they're looking to expand. And one strategy we're looking at is a cross gable over the center of the house and rebuilding the existing roof to keep the massing relatively modest to the site when looking at it from the branch trail and from Bartlett Hill Road and also Monument. I should point out that in the rear, on the first floor is going to be a screen porch and kitchen expansion. And then at the second level, we're adding 2 bedrooms, a family room with home office space, and a bathroom. And the flanking dormers are going to help admit light into the project on the second level. And this is a view from the front. I wanted to point out the relocated garage access away from the street side. And then also the rebuilt roof structure. Right now, from mean level, we're at 23.4 to the high ridge line. Because we're following the existing footprint, the roof is broken into 3 volumes, the midsection higher, and then the 2 flanking volumes. We're going to go about 3 feet higher to the upper ridge. And then this is the view from the other side with the expanded living room up front and the rebuilt roof. Here I have the existing site plan surveyed, and you can see the existing driveway, and there's an existing walkway here also. We're going to relocate the main entry closer to the garage, and we're going to cover the old walkway and the driveway with landscaping, mostly grass. I also have existing elevations just showing, this is the south elevation, and it's pretty evident here that the living room is dark because it's just the fenestration is quite lacking. And then the garage is quite narrow. We have a 20-foot width here, which is one of the reasons we're going to the side, in addition to improving the architectural character of the house. The west elevation is where we're going to be adding the garage doors. This is the rear of the house existing. The proposed site plan, we're going to ask for a new curb cut with a smaller entrance into a driveway that goes into the side. And it's just a much more agreeable view to the house. We're also going to have from the front entry a walkway to the driveway area. We're also proposing, where my cursor is, removing a large tree and planting a row of cherry trees at a much lower height, so we can get both natural light into the new house and solar access onto the roof, which I'll get into in a minute. Here's the south elevation with the rebuilt roof and the expanded living room. And then the west elevation I want to point out is the garage, which you'll see from the public way, Bartlett Hill Road. And the corner back here is the screen porch. And then the north elevation, again, you'll see part of the new roof from a reformatory branch trail that will be visible. I'm going to jump into a lighting plan. This is just a quick study, but it's solidly committed to by the homeowners. At the entry alcove, we're going to do a recessed downlight, and then there's also a rear stair proposed into the basement. Also 2 downlights from the ceiling there. The F4s are wall sconces, probably about 7 feet above grade at a lower height than the 8-foot tall garage doors. And then also two sconces in the rear, lighting access to the screen porch and a door to the garage. And then finally, we've got F3 lighting in a proposed gravel area with terminating in landscaping at the end, lighting the walkway at night from the driveway. So the fixtures, I just want to quickly show you, this is an LED downlight, 600 lumens is what we're proposing. For the walkway lighting, we're proposing these 35 lumen side lights that light the walkway, very low level of light. And then finally, wall sconces that are also dark sky compliant, lighting down only at 315 delivered lumens. Regarding list of materials, I want to point out the roofing. We're looking at solar roof tiles, and it's recently come to light that the lead time on this product may be inordinately long and not conducive for a good construction timeline. So we're looking for an opinion tonight also on low profile solar panels by the same manufacturers. And I'll get to those photos in a minute. For siding, we're looking at horizontal cedar wood siding, a color to be light gray. The windows, we're looking at aluminum clad windows with color black, and the flashing white or gray metal. And then the trim panels, either cellular PVC or MDO panels. And then the existing foundation is concrete, so we're just going to match that at this point. This is a section through the windows that we're proposing. You can see the aluminum clad profile, which gives long-term performance to the windows, and it has a matte finish on it. So from a distance, it's of painted wood. It shouldn't be any different. And finally, I just wanted to talk about the solar roof tiles. This photograph that I actually already emailed to Heather and the commission members, and I'm looking to set up a site visit if you are interested. We can pick a date. The homeowner has said he would like to have permission or get your approval on this based on your site visit. And I should also mention that there's a physical sample that was dropped off at your office of the solar tile. Again, being due south, our project is ideal for generating electricity in a green way for this project. And then finally, the alternate roofing option would be this low profile solar panel on asphalt shingles. The panel itself is 1.5 inches thick, and then there's a framing and airspace underneath it of 2 inches. So that gives us a total of 3.5 inches for this alternate option we're looking for an opinion on. And that concludes my presentation. I open it up to the commission.
Thank you very much, Jason. A very good presentation. Abigail, make any comments?
I think it's really well rendered design. I think it has the benefit of not only being what I would deem appropriate per our guidelines, but also quite attractive. I think the most interesting thing probably to many of us are the solar panels, because this is something that we have struggled with in different applications within the district. We're obviously very interested in and committed to green energy, but we've often found that the solar panels, particularly in earlier generations, were quite large. They're very shiny, they're quite obvious. I think the solar tiles are a fascinating option. I think they almost appear like a slate roof. Is that the product that has a significantly long lead time?
Yes, it is, unfortunately. And I should mention the material composition of it is, it's a tempered glass solar layer over a metal panel. And it's very robust. If you drop a hammer on it, and for example, in a hailstorm, it's not going to shatter the product. It's a very resilient product.
I mean, I think in terms of an aesthetic perspective, I think the tiles are obviously preferable because they more closely mimic a natural roof structure. The raised panel, does that have a similar matte finish, or is that more reflective?
I think it's more glossy. I have not seen a sample of it yet, but
okay,
that's something I could get.
Okay, and which is this facing? Are the panels, where are they located?
So if we did the solar tiles, the manufacturer would put them on the south. First of all, the solar tiles have active PV producing tiles and then non-active. So the whole roof will look the same no matter what. But the PV generating ones will be on the south, the east, and the west slopes of the roof. So you would be getting electricity generation first thing in the morning.
But the entire roof would appear the
same. Yeah.
And if you had to do the raised panels, where would they be located?
They would be only on, they would sort of hover around only on the south facing slopes.
Okay. And pardon me, does that facing Bartlett Hill Road?
Yeah, so the image I'm showing right now faces Bartlett Hill Road. That's almost due south.
Okay. I mean, I think obviously I'm guessing the homeowner's preference is the tiles as well, but we understand if that's poses a significant construction delay. We're dealing with this with lots of different materials on projects that are under our approval right now. My only other question is the path lights. Are those dark sky compliant? Yes, those.
Well, there's a hood.
But there is kind of your position.
They're basically they're side lights, but there's no hood over top of them. But I mean, it's a sheer face in front, so there's no illumination upwards.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I think I'm torn on these because I think it's such a low level of light that it probably has minimal impact. But just in terms of setting precedent, we kind of strongly prefer everything to be a downlight when it's exterior. Yes. So if there was an alternate design that you could, an alternate fixture that perhaps you'd be interested in proposing that would meet that specification, that would probably be my only hiccup, but it's not a deal breaker. But other than that, I have no objection to the overall design of the project and the materials being used.
Thank you, Abby. Henry.
Thank you. I also thought this was a good presentation. I'm interested to be sure that I haven't misunderstood. The solar panels, and actually, if you could go to that the south elevation again. The south elevation faces the street, does it not?
Yes, it does.
I'm actually not very concerned about that in this particular context, which is for that street. If it were facing Lowell Road or Monument Street, it would be a different discussion. What I'm assuming is that you are going to end up with panels rather than tiles. And I think the awkward thing is the triangular nature of the main roof.
Yes.
Because those panels are going to step as they're not going to match. They're not going to just fit into the triangles. And I think that they're going to become much more visible as a result of that. I don't have a problem with them as large rectangular elements that are applied beside the dormers. But I think it's going to be a problem on the main roof. And I leave it to others to develop their opinions. And in terms of the lighting, my only comment was almost trivial. It seemed to me that three fixtures of the F4 type at the garage are probably unnecessary, and that you could have one and it would do perfectly well.
One F4 like in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a question is, wouldn't that work as well?
I was trying to give symmetry of lighting around the opening, but each opening.
I think, yeah.
I also was choosing fixtures that had very low levels of light and not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is not something to go to the mat over. I thought I would question it.
Okay. What is your opinion on the solar tiles, Henry?
I've been interested in those for a long time and have never been able to get them into a scheme. So I've very little direct experience with them. I don't think they're going to look like a normal roof, but I think that they are going to work and that they're going to be unobtainable.
Yep.
Thank you, Henry. Peter?
Thank you, Lise. Jason, first of all, I do want to congratulate you on a refreshing, if not breathtakingly modest design, given the location of this house. I think I really think it's quite well done. So thank you for that. I think on the one suggestion I might have, and I agree with what my colleagues have said, in terms of the roof, would there be a way of phasing the installation of the solar tiles? In other words, putting up an inexpensive asphalt shingle and then just putting the solar installation up when it becomes available after, Elon Musk lands on the moon or whenever that's going to be. I don't know when, but that might be one way to avoid, I think, what Henry's saying, the sawtoothing of the panel installations could look a little, it sort of deflate the whole impact of the design. The tiles, on the other hand, would be, I would be 100% behind that kind of thing. So anyway, just a suggestion, something to consider, because I think we've got too much asphalt shingle roofing in the world. But otherwise, I applaud your design.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Dennis?
I agree. The design is great. I'm curious, how much of the solar panel will we see from Monument Street?
You would see this portion. Are you saying the solar panel or the solar tiles?
Again, I agree. That's probably gonna have to be the panels. So the panels.
here's the view from the top of the hill at Bartlett Hill Road. So we would have a dormer here, so there'd be a little bit of roof that would be exposed.
The solar panels will be behind of what we're looking at there, right?
Pardon me?
The solar panels will be on this surface that it's looking towards us, or behind. Is this the north or the south elevation?
So this is the south, but again, this whole roof is coming off, and we're rebuilding it to a steeper pitch to accommodate living space inside. Existing is an 8 and 12. We're doing a 9 and 12. And anyways, there's a dormer will be here. The chimney will be gone. So you'll see this portion. Let me go back
Let's see
to.
that.
Let me go
So,
back to this.
So we would not see the solar panels. I'm getting at
I
this
don't
whole
think
idea of the
so.
sawtooth effect. But if we're not going to see it, I'm not as worried about it from the historic district. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, at the bottom of the hill, you would be seeing more of this elevation.
Maybe a little, not much.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see much of it. And you know, when you look at it from the front, you're still going to see it, but that's not our concern. Our concern is what you see from this down below in the street.
Right.
So I don't have a major problem with it. I might want to mention, and I'm intrigued by this whole idea of these solar tiles. And I might have mentioned this once before, but if you go to take the road to 9 Acre Corner, and at the corner at the intersection, turning towards Lincoln, there's a white farmhouse that's been remodeled, and I think that has solar tiles on it. Either that or some very, very low profile solar panels. So if anybody wants to take a drive in that area, you can get a good look at them.
Thank you, Dennis. Paul, any comments?
No, I have nothing to add to what my colleagues have said.
Thank you. I don't have much to add except the same concern for the solar panels, that certainly would be much better to have solar tiles. And I wish there would be a compromise by which you can evolve from one to the other, but keep in mind that the solar tiles are going to take the whole roof, then you would have to replace the whole roof just to add solar tiles in the back. But thanks for the very good presentation, and I echo Peter's comments about the size of the proposal. Any comments from the public? So it doesn't look like we have any public comments. Jason, do you want to address any comments that were made from the commissioners? You want to add anything?
I'm hearing there's a preference for the solar tiles, but at this point, I also would like to have the homeowner, David Turner, have the opportunity to speak on this matter as well. He's present, and he might have a comment about solar tiles versus panels. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I mean, actually, my preference exactly matches that of the commission, that I would prefer to put up the tiles. I think they really only make sense when you can put them up when a new roof is going on, so they effectively consume the budget of both the roof and the tiles because they are more expensive. So that would be the preference. There's some great uncertainty about whether they would be available several months from now, or 2 or 3 quarters from now, when we might be building, because the supply chain from that manufacturer is so unpredictable. But that's really the only reason we're considering the alternate option of an asphalt roof.
Thank you, David. Any other comments? So, well, it looks like we definitely are going to have a site visit, and that site visit would be on Thursday, the 21st at 8 a.m. Would that be convenient for the applicant, David and Jason?
I will make that work for myself, for my calendar.
What time?
8 in the morning?
8 in the morning and April 21st.
That's correct. And, it would be helpful if there are any reference points that you can put with the stakes on the ground, or so we get an idea where each thing is going to go, especially as you are reconfiguring the garage and putting the garage on the other side and so forth. That's always very helpful.
Okay. It's my first time appearing in front of this Historic Districts Commission. Thank you very much. And after that site visit, would there be another actual Zoom meeting, or how would that work?
Yeah, there will be a meeting in the evening. We set the site visit for the same day of the meeting in the evening. So one of the important things is that most of the things that have been discussed right now, which in your particular case, I don't think that they are substantial, because I think that everybody agrees that the design is very good. In which case, the site visit is just to clarify things and to make sure that things are the way that we look at it in the plans. You should be prepared with plans that we can approve, and so you can go ahead. And that would be the same day of the site visit. So you will have a short time between you discovering the site visit and any changes that you want to make in the final plan. Between 8 in the morning and 7 in the evening.
Understood.
Louis, if Jason could put onto one of his elevations the layout for the solar panels as opposed to the solar tiles, that might just help the conversation.
I agree.
I can do that. I can do that.
Please, do you hear me?
Sure, go ahead.
This is Tim Rose. I can't ever figure out how to get the
Give them your
mute
address.
97 Bartlett Hill Road down the road from David Turner. And I would like to say basically how pleased I am that you, the Historic District Commission, has made this comment about not overwhelming the neighborhood with another mansion, you might say, since we have one of these that are coming up on 61, 2 doors down from David. And I hope we are getting through with this, and David's selection, I think, has been most appreciated by the neighbors as well.
Well, thanks very much for your comments. We're very happy to hear that. So if there are no more public comments, I will ask for a vote to continue the application of Bartlett Hill Road, 45 Bartlett Hills Road.
So moved that we continue the application for 45 Bartlett Hill Road to our next meeting on April 21st with a site visit at 8 in the morning.
Second.
Okay, Abigail?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So thank you very much, and we look
Thank you,
forward to
folks.
see you 2 weeks from now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we now go into other business, and I'll ask Heather to explain the certificate of amendment of 97 Lowell Road.
I believe Jim White is here. I will share my screen, but I'll let him explain.
Okay. Good morning, Jim.
Yeah, hi. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Good evening.
This picture, we have created mass confusion where the compass sign now is right over the entrance to the new restaurant Nosh by Concord Market, so that it confuses the customers of both the restaurant and Compass. And what we would like to do is move the Compass sign over to where the X is, because part of their rental premises is right under that. And I'm just wondering if we have to go through a formal hearing or whether there's an administrative process to just allow us to move it over there or not. That if we have a hearing, that will be what it is.
Well, I'll ask Heather to bail us out from this one. I personally don't see much of a problem.
I think if it's the exact same sign just being relocated, as long as the commission's fine with the location, I don't believe it would require a new application.
It'll be the same sign,
Yeah, it's basically an amendment to the application, amending the location.
So then I will ask for comments from the commission. Abigail?
You're not proposing, there's no new lighting in that location, correct?
No.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it.
Thank you, Abby. Peter?
No comment. No, it looks fine to me.
Thank you. Dennis?
Fine with me.
Paul?
No comment.
Henry?
I like the drawing. He shrunk the sign.
Not to scale.
I think it's fine.
And I don't have any objections. So if there are any comments from the public, although I don't know if they are necessary. So I assume that can we approve this administratively, Heather, or should we have a vote?
We just need a motion to amend the sign location.
Okay, so I'll ask for a motion to amend the location of the sign at Lower Road,
97.
97 Lower Road.
I'll move that we approve the location change to the sign at 97 Lowell Road.
Second.
Okay, Abigail?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Thank you all very much.
And I should make note that this is the first time that we have such a straightforward application from Jim. We always have lots of comments and things.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank
Jim.
you so much.
Yep, see you. Bye.
Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Okay, the second part of the business, it's something I would love to find in my screen. I don't know where it went. It's a discussion of support of warrant article number 30 of the Scenic Roads General Bylaw. I'll send some material through Heather to all members of the commission, asking that you review the warrant article and its purpose. And my initiative is that we as a commission endorse this petition. So I wanted to have a feedback from the members of the commission, and under the assumption that you are familiar with the contents of Article 30, then whether you believe that it's appropriate for us as a commission to appear as supporting this motion or this warrant, keeping in mind that we're not, we are just supporting it. We're not co-sponsoring, or we don't have any role other than being members of the community of the town. So there's no formal obligation or responsibility, and we can take it in an up or down vote. So if I can hear any comments, Abigail?
So I read through their FAQs and everything, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding it, since I kind of it was a little fuzzy. Basically, it's a control on the town, that if the town wanted to expand a road, sidewalk, something that either impacted the stone walls or the trees within the public way, then they would need to seek additional approvals for that. Is that correct?
I think so. I don't know if anyone wants to expand that, but that's the way I interpret it. You see, it's a little more control over what can be done.
It's just the public way. It's not stone
the
walls.
public ways. No, exactly. And it's limited to certain streets. You see, because there's a list of the streets where this warrant will be applied.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't have any kind of objection to it. I guess if it needs our support, I mean, it seems as though it's in line with what we do. Have we supported articles like this in the past? I just don't know I don't know what our history is of kind of endorsing articles at town meeting.
If I may clarify that, I don't think that we have ever done anything like that. And the purpose of this is that I believe that it's important for our commission to have a closer relationship with other commissions in town. And I think that Historic Commission, we have outlined a plan for collaboration and cooperation. And I think that this is part of that overall strategy to support each other in the things that where our purposes and interests coincide. And in this case, you see, it's the preservation of the historic references of the town, which I think that this warrant addresses very well.
Yeah, so I don't have any fundamental objection to it. I think we should probably, this is the lawyer in me, have some sort of, we don't necessarily do it for this one, but some sort of guidelines as to how we decide whether or not to endorse a warrant article. Some set of parameters that, as opposed to collectively, we all think it's a good idea or it's kind of in line with what we do, we should probably have some sort of formal parameters that would, in terms of what the HDC would or would not endorse, just for the sake of kind of consistency and clarity. But that's just my lawyer hat on.
Okay. I think that that's a very good point. And I would then invite you to start sketching a set of guidelines, because I think that it's something that it's going to come up again. And I want to clarify as well that the endorsement that would be presented would be a simple endorsement, in the sense that one of the members of our commission will stand up to the microphone on town meeting and say that the HDC as a commission supports, or if we don't approve that support, then I have said that we are not going to make any announcement. But if we decide to approve it, then we'll say that we believe that it's a very good thing and that it should be approved. So we will be appearing as endorsing the proposition. Peter.
I don't have any strong feelings. I was a little, I'm not even sure what the word is. It really should be called the scenic stone wall and tree bylaw. It's not really, I'm a little hesitant to layer more. And now I'm going to say I'm influenced by colleagues on the call here who shall remain nameless, but I hesitate to layer more restrictions on people in town when they're trying to do work along the scenic bylaw, the scenic road areas. On the other hand, it doesn't seem like a big ask to be careful about stone walls and trees along these roadways. So it's okay with me. I just don't think frankly, I just don't think it has teeth. I mean, it's okay, but it's not going to help us in projects where we've run into trouble. I think we all know which one I'm talking about recently. But anyway, that's all I can say at the moment.
Thank you, Peter. Dennis.
I have to say right up front that I've been very involved with this project. Strawberry Hill Road is one of the streets that's listed, and Peggy and I have been working hard to document the street. In the case of Strawberry Hill Road, for instance, it's the narrowness of the road, the way the road swerves and curves, as you know, which a lot of people don't like. But that's one of the things that makes it an attractive road and also slows down people going by our house. So I think it is an important thing, obviously, if I've been involved in it. Let me give you a concrete example. Some of you remember back when we were discussing the intersection of Cambridge Turnpike and Lexington Road, and the town came up with a proposal for that new intersection that we all felt was pretty horrible. Just was not well done. It was not sympathetic to the historic structures around it. It was eliminating a historic road that was in front of the Emerson House. And so we did a lot to improve that and to make that a much better intersection. Now we didn't win all of them. The dirt road I thought would go all the way. They terminated and paved part of it, and then they reconstructed the Emerson's wall as a modern wall. So you just can't do enough to oversee these things. But it did improve that whole intersection. So I think some oversight on these historic roads, I believe, is very, very important. At least as another set of eyes and others that are looking at it. And I realize there's going to be some clash with all the safety ideas. I think we've been on a rash of signage recently. If any of you have driven down any road, there's no curve that doesn't have a set of arrows on it these days, or a curve ahead sign. it is as though we've been idiots for the last 100 years and aren't able to negotiate these curves. And I think those are obstructionists. I think I tried to take a photograph of Strawberry Hill Road and I couldn't find without a yellow sign that marks some aspect of it. So I think there's a balance here, and I think it's important that there's an oversight to make sure that these roads stay historic and that they are not impinged upon. And again, it's only in the public right of way. I will say, given what Peter said, most of the stone walls and trees are on private property. But anyway, it does give a second overview to any projects that happen in these areas.
Thank you, Dennis. Paul?
I think Dennis makes important points, and I share many of those views, but I'm a little unclear what we're being asked to do here. In other words, and I haven't read the warrant article for a while, but what is being asked of us tonight? To endorse the warrant article, and so what? In what context? How? What inference who draws what inference from that? What teeth does it have? Why are we doing this?
The reason we're doing this is because we believe that we have a common purpose of preserving the historic references of Concord. We do it as a Historic Districts Commission by controlling the way that things look from the exterior. And there are some other commissions in town, such as the Historic Commission, that addresses other part of the historic references that Concord has. This is a warrant that is an instrument to maintain those references.
So let me ask a practical question. So does this mean that in a particular context of a road or a stone wall, that someone who otherwise would not need to come before this commission has to come before the commission?
No, none whatsoever. You see, we're not imposing any type of restrictions. We're not imposing any type of procedures. The only thing that we're saying that we like it. And I have stated the principles by which we should say that we like it. And I think that what we're discussing is whether those principles are legitimate principles. You see, whether our endorsement is simply a matter of that we appear as friends of the court, if I may borrow from your field. And
so, I mean, my view on this, however parochial, is that while I agree with the mission, I disagree with the notion of our putting a foot on the scales in a circumstance in which we have no role anyway. I mean, just to say, oh, we like this and we're the Historic Districts Commission, to me isn't meaningful and dilutes our mission. I don't think it's helpful, and I think it adds a level of potential, at least perceived bureaucracy that's unfortunate. So personally, I'm against it.
Okay, I'll try to clarify the issues, and I definitely respect your position. This is not trying to impose anything, to add anything, or to put the Historic Districts Commission in a regulatory role, even if it is by implication. You see, this is just the appearance of the Historic Commission as a unified body or as an organized, recognizable body that deals with historic references in the town of Concord, saying that the commission as such understands this as a positive warrant and a positive law that will help us achieve our purposes. So it doesn't, at no time there's any possibility of it becoming a regulatory loophole or anything of that sort. So if I have addressed it, I want to let that as well.
I think I understand. I think I understand that, and I understand it doesn't require somebody to come before us. I just think it's not our role to endorse something over which we don't have jurisdiction. At the same time, on a personal level, I do endorse the mission of the warrant article, but I think as a commission, it's a mistake.
Okay. Henry, thanks for your very good comments, Paul. Henry, thank you.
I might have as great a conflict of interest here as Dennis and Peggy, in that I've drafted 2 of the streets or roads. And to Paul's points, what I think is useful about this is that it reminds people that it is consistent with the mission, to use your word, Paul, of the Historic District Commission, in that we are not just looking at buildings as objects. And the conversation back and forth over the Walden Street property, even though that's nothing to do with scenic roads, really brought this home to me again this week, which is that most people think that's all we're there to do, just to tell people that they can't paint their front door blue. And I think sensitizing the Department of Public Works and the planning department, planning board, and others to the significance of the continuity of these scenic roads is very important. And what we're saying by endorsing it is that it's consistent with the way we think Concord should be monitored for changes that might otherwise not be considered very carefully, which is to say, oh, well, let's put 3 new driveways through this wall when there could be 1. That's an example that people often use. So it's not as bureaucratic as folks think. Practically every township around us has this, and many or most have had it. Scenic road legislation bylaws since the mid 1970s. So yes, there's a lot for us to think about because there are ambiguities, but I think it is in our interest to endorse it. And again, you can tell me I can't vote.
No.
Well,
I mean,
actually, I think that everybody votes on this one. This is not a decision that we're being made within our purview. It's a decision from the commission that any member of the commission can stand up in town meeting and say essentially the same thing, that as a person endorses the warrant. So what I'm asking is that we do it as a commission in behalf of the commission, which will give a little more visibility and a little more weight, perhaps, for a purpose that I personally believe that it's worthwhile.
Luis, can I say one more thing?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Something I meant to say in the beginning, and that is that oftentimes when I hear this discussed around town, it's seen as an adversarial relationship, particularly with Public Works. And I think I'd rather see this as a partnership with Public Works in order to achieve what's best for the town, not an adversarial relationship. And again, I'll go back to our work on the Cambridge Turnpike, where we had very good discussions and came up with good solutions, and it wasn't adversarial.
That is correct. I remember that. So anybody wants to make any other comments? All right.
So I have to say that I find Dennis's and Henry's arguments in favor of the warrant article persuasive, but I find Paul's argument in order of us not endorsing it persuasive. I don't think it's our position to wade in as a commission on something like this, but I would encourage particularly Dennis and Henry to speak in favor of it at town meeting and to reference their experience on the HDC as part of that, and to say, these are the issues that we contend with. This is my experience, and this would aid, the commission's work and the town's work in this way. But I agree with Paul, without some sort of framework as to how we choose what we do or do not endorse, I'm uncomfortable wading into that without a framework in place. I agree. I don't think it's our kind of position to take an opinion on those things, but I obviously will go along with the majority of the commission. But I agree with the content for Dennis and Henry, and I agree with procedurally with Paul.
All right. Any other comments? So I don't know exactly how to go about this
Luis,
from the.
Linda Escobedo has
Linda
Oh,
has
sorry, Linda, I
question.
didn't see your. Well, good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak because I see public comment is not on the agenda tonight. I just want to, the commission's comments notwithstanding, all good comments, just to remind everyone that the town moderator invited all commissions, boards and committees who had had similar agendas to the particular warrant articles to please review them and weigh in. So in this case, I'll give you one example. There are multiple housing groups. They have weighed in on those warrant articles that directly address in some way housing issues. And so I see that similar to the Historic Districts Commission weighing in on this particular one for the reason that's been expended by a couple of you. But I do appreciate all the rest of your comments. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Well, I don't think there's a lot more discussion to have. Procedurally, I don't know if I can ask for a motion to either endorse or take no action in terms of warrant article number 30. That would be the issue on the table for a vote. And I will extend the explanation to say that in the case that we have an affirmative vote and that the commission as a whole wants to endorse this warrant, then I will ask the vice chair and the secretary to work with me to formulate a language that represents the interests and the concerns that have been expressed tonight. So if I can have a motion whether we should endorse or not endorse warrant article number 30, I will be grateful.
Now, this is something that can only be done by, I'm not a voting member, so I cannot propose this tonight. Is that correct?
Well, that's another question I was going to ask. You see, you are a member of the Historic Districts Commission. You don't vote on matters of approving applications and so forth. But I don't think that there's any rule to say that as a member, you see, we're voting. I think that we're voting the same role that we vote when we vote for a chair, a vice chair, or a secretary, in the sense that all members of the commission vote, not only just the ones that are full members. So I believe that that falls into that category. So it will be a simple majority vote from the commission members present.
Can I ask a kind of an odd question, Dennis? Sorry, may I interrupt you? Is it maybe that I'm struggling at the word endorse, because that seems to result in some kind of an official position, or, I mean, is there a way to just sort of state that we have no objection or that we encourage, or do you know what I mean? That there's a way of, it just feels a little weird. Like it would be one thing if all 17 other commissions and boards are all saying, yep, this is a good idea, and we just sort of jump on the bandwagon. But I don't know if that's the case. It's probably us, the Historic Commission. Is the planning board endorsing this? Are other people?
The planning board is co-sponsoring this article.
Aha. So I guess they are endorsing it then.
If I make an explanation, I think that's the reason that I wanted to have a conversation with you and with Abigail, because I will not be comfortable with anything that represents that doesn't address the issues that you're saying. So I think we should use language such as support or we agree or something like that, but certainly endorse, it's a poor choice of words. Sorry, I interrupted you, but I wanted to explain it.
No, that's really it. It does feel like we're sort of taking this action, which we aren't really doing. We really are saying, go ahead, Paul. Sorry,
Paul, go ahead, please.
Tied up in my own shoelaces here, but you're muted. Yeah,
Paul,
we can't hear you, Paul.
Paul, you're muted.
There you go.
I have visions of this being thrown back at us in the context of particular applications, whether they're applications before us or there's something for the zoning board. And the applicant says, well, the Historic Districts Commission has approved this, and here's their endorsement in a context that's totally without our control. And I just think that's a position in which we don't want to find ourselves, notwithstanding, I think, the substantive merit of everything that's proposed in the warrant article and everything that Dennis said and Henry said and others. I mean, I think it is important. I think we all do care. I think it is consistent with our historic mission. I'm just fearful that inadvertently we're writing a new guideline. We're writing a new rubric against which we're going to be measured in a particular case. And I think that's going to come back to haunt us. So, but basically my reasons are the same. I think it's a mistake to officially endorse it in a circumstance in which we do not have control over an application or a circumstance, because it's not going to come before us.
Well, if I may add something, I will remove the word endorse. I would say that we support or agree in general, and if we approve this motion or this proposition, I will make sure that the language that it's used does not imply that we have any purview or any jurisdiction through any of the issues that are, and that it cannot be construed as such, because that certainly it's not the purpose. I don't agree in the sense that this can be thrown back at us because we supported this proposition, because, you know, to me, it's the same thing as a member of the community of Concord is standing up and saying that he supports or she supports A, B, or C. So, you know, there's no implied compromise or contract or responsibility in doing so. So that's the way I look at this. And again, if we approve it, it will be worded in such way, and probably you will be able to review it as well. So, any other comments? Okay, so procedurally, I don't think I can make a motion for these, but I would, for the record, I would like to have a motion either to support or not support warrant article number 30.
I don't know if I would say make a motion to not support, because that makes it seem like you're against a warrant article, but perhaps no action. Or
support
just,
or no action. And actually that's the way I formulated it in my letter.
Could I ask?
I don't know about no action either, because that might sound like you want them to take no action on the warrant article. So maybe just don't make a motion. I don't know. I don't know how to work that.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, so I'm wondering if there's an avenue here that is Switzerland. And I mean, can we, for example, have the chair write a letter to whatever body, or even, you know, whoever is going to be conducting town meeting, the town moderator, saying that we discussed this issue, that we believe in its purposes, but not vote, not endorse the warrant article as such. That I don't know exactly how to articulate it on the fly, but essentially saying in a letter that we discussed the warrant article and its purposes. The commission as a whole believes in those purposes, and, you know, let it go at that. It can be better than that. It can be stronger than that, but essentially that would be what we would do. We would not vote on endorsing it or supporting it, or that would be That would be my Swiss solution.
Well,
I'd also like to point out, we do have one more meeting before town meeting, so we don't have to
That's
decide
what I
on
was gonna
this tonight.
I was
Yeah.
going to suggest we draft something and review it at the next meeting.
yeah, but actually, I think that there's a deadline, and I'm trying to look for an email that I
I don't
received.
think there's any specific deadline, Luis.
Okay, no, but there were a number of things that that you could fill, but I don't have it. Well, let's do the following. I think that we have had a good discussion. I think that there are some very important points that have been made, and I think that we, in general, agree with the spirit of the proposal. I think that where we don't agree, and that was where we don't have consensus, and that's the reason for bringing it to a discussion. It's whether that will have side effects that are undesirable for our commission. But within this context, I think that we can put it for a discussion for the next meeting on April 21, and then we can take a vote.
I don't mind postponing it, and I think that Abby and Paul, they have more insight into some of the implications of this than I ever will. But might we just say that we support the intent?
Yes.
The preservation intent of the proposed bylaw, although we have no regulatory connection to its, I don't want to say enforcement, but it's whatever the mild version of that is.
That's what I'm looking for.
I think Paul and Henry are right. I think we can draft a statement that says something like, you know, the HDC supports all endeavors to preserve the important historical character and fabric of Concord, blah, blah, blah. You know, it can be supportive, but sort of
fall short of endorsement.
Yeah, sort of neutral at the same time. So I think that's an option. I think we can draft something likely. And so I think that's something we can discuss the next meeting. And hopefully at the next meeting we have our full complement, because, you know, I'd like to have, you know, not just the six of us make that decision.
Yeah.
Well, and that being the case, Abigail, would you be willing to work with Paul to write the text of such proposition? Because, you know, at this point, I would trust very much in the language that you would use, because I would be certain that it will keep us out of trouble in the future.
Oh, put that on Abby.
Yes, we will do our best.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
I think it's Dennis and Henry, thank you for all your work. I didn't mean to say the thing doesn't have any teeth. I just meant I was thinking about something else in a way, but
there are ambiguities.
Well, I think, look, we had one applicant tonight that, you know, you can tell there are some people that just want their responsibility to stop at their property line. And the reality is we're representing an overlay district. There are issues that have much more to do than just individual property rights. And that's hard for people. It just is. So you have to have very specific rules. And sometimes they get a little elaborate, and that's just the way it is. So,
yeah,
thank you.
I think in no way do I mean to diminish the importance of your work on this, Dennis. I laud that. I agree with it. I think we can find a solution here that's potentially satisfactory, if not ideal. And I'll work with Abby to see if we can fashion something.
Good.
Well, thanks very much in advance. I think that we are past our bedtime. So if there are any other issues that anybody wants to discuss, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I hate to bring up one more, but it's just a clarification from Heather. We discussed the Bank of America tonight. Did they ever fix their landscaping problem? Didn't we have a problem with them when they were not removing the fence we wanted removed and never removed it?
That's Middlesex.
Middlesex.
The Middlesex.
That was
Oh, good.
Middlesex, and I
the wrong
believe they
bank.
actually removed it.
They have removed it.
They did.
Really?
They have removed. Yeah, they definitely removed it. Yeah.
Wow.
It took a while, but they did it.
Only took 3 years.
Okay.
You sure nobody hit it? Nobody ran it over with a snowplow by accident?
I think that Paul has something to do with it. He just showed up and said, "Where's this fence here?" They immediately took it out.
Wait, let me ask Heather, when is your last day? You have to tell
My,
us.
my last day is May 31st.
Okay, so we still have a little bit of time to get the tissues out.
Yeah, I was counting.
the
I have a
diapers.
few more meetings.
And,
with you
And the
guys.
the diapers.
I thought we were going to say to change her mind.
How are you feeling? Okay. We'll talk about it later. All right, I move we adjourn.
I'll second it. A lot of
I,
seconds.
All in
voice
favor?
vote. All in favor.
It's a hand
Well,
vote.
thanks everybody. Thanks very much for
Nice
coming
to
by.
see
Thanks
you
for your
all.
comments. Always
Linda,
great.
thanks for coming.